What is up, SharkNation? Welcome to the SharkPod for this week. It's me and Mark Baker. The boys are back in town or sitting in their their home offices right now, recording this. As going
box
out.
rooms.
A couple of box room boys around here. Mark was saying I'm acting a little bit strange here. I've been doing my triathlon training, ran a quick 21k after work today, and came in straight to the podcast. So I'm feeling loose. I'm feeling excited about this. I think I did a personal best in the run today, and I think it was because I was prepping this earlier today, prepping for this kind of special episode. And Mark, this episode, it kind of came out of that weird one that we did back in May with Matthew McConaughey, the kind of speech that he gave that time.
Yeah, that was one of the most popular podcasts that we did. I think a lot of people are secretly big fans of Matthew McConaughey, and
secretly or overt, like a couple, like me and you. But wait,
and I did notice, by the way, he did see our post on Instagram, the story. He's watching and hopefully listening.
Well, if he wants to come on here, he's more than welcome. Shout out to Matthew McConaughey. But anyway, yeah, I actually got a lot of feedback on that one as well. Because we were thinking about it beforehand, and we were kind of like, is this going to be too weird or whatever? But people, really thought that was a good one. So we're going to do something a bit similar today. We're going to rock this out with our boy Arnold Schwarzenegger. All right.
Yeah. So we were kind of running behind schedule with guests because Luke was on a little staycation. Actually, I never asked you about that. How was it?
Fabulous. We went down there to Kerry first, and then over to Cork. Great time. A little bit pricey out there compared to, I could have went to Thailand for a month, but we're
you'd have been judged though heavily.
Yeah, for sure. But it was good. I actually had some weird kind of like cultural experiences out there as well, that were unexpected. For example, it's the Gael talk out there. I didn't really, not that I didn't think it was real, but I thought it was a very kind of, very Gael talk in the way that all the schools are Irish schools, that type of stuff. But I didn't know if it was like a proper community. Anyway, but when we were out there, we had loads of like Irish run-ins, me and Katie. So we were at a little cafe out there in the Gael talk, and there was like groups of young people speaking Irish to each other. Heartwarming stuff. There was also a really old guy who came in, and he was just speaking Irish as well. So it was real.
So you didn't feel left out this time that you're a Gaeilgeoir?
Well, I wouldn't go as far as Gaeilgeoir, but I felt a lot more kind of welcome there. I just thought it was I thought it was great. And then also our Farron T, or the guy who owns the B&B that we're staying in Dingle, he was from the Gael talk as well. And you couldn't shut this guy up at breakfast. He was basically sitting at our table, shouting in Irish at us, having a great time. He was loving that Katie was not from the West but could speak Irish perfectly. He was puzzled by this. He's like, this is really strange. Like, and then Katie's like, be careful, with Luke, because he speaks okay, but he understands everything. So be careful.
Why? What was he saying?
He was saying things about certain guests that didn't have the changa, didn't have the language.
Oh, really?
Anyway, so I had a great little time out there. Went to a place called Derrynan Beach. Absolutely fabulous. It could have been Thailand. It was beautiful. Yeah. Another artist, Owen O'Connor, that I follow on Instagram.
I know Owen.
Yeah, he's down there in the same beach. We could have.
Oh, really? Yeah. Oh, I did. I saw him actually posted a picture. Yeah. Owen promised me to come on the podcast. So, Owen, if you're listening, we'll get you on soon.
Imagine if we done a SharkPod from the beach. How apt
we could have solved that guest problem that we had.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so that was great. Had a great time. I was there for probably 8 days or something like that. Went to Cork. Never been to Cork before. It was great. We passed by Clonakilty as well. So Jennifer, if you're listening, West Cork is gorgeous as well. So yeah, it was great. Great time.
5 stars. I'm going there next month. So
yeah, it was fab. It was a little bit. I think it would have been better, obviously, if it wasn't all the COVID stuff. Just because, like when you were going out for, like, even in Dingle's, a great town for music, all that type of stuff. It was completely dead. Like, you like the restaurants were open, but you couldn't go for a drink beforehand, or there was no. The atmosphere was pretty flat, but it was nice. Anyway, to get away and all that type of stuff. We went out to the Blasket Islands. That was kind of a cool trip. If anyone's ever out there that way, it's kind of a cool kind of history lesson that goes out. There's a woman there whose family is like from the island because it's abandoned now. Like,
yeah.
But she kind of brings you around and stuff. If you ever read that book by Peg Sayers, it's when it was the old Irish one that everyone hated. She lived there anyway, so it was good. I stepped on a lot of sheep poo out there, guys. Okay, so we've got Arnold Schwarzenegger lined up. Okay, so Arnold Schwarzenegger, he's got this stuff on YouTube. It's like 6. So like he's got 3 or 4 of these different videos, and sometimes it's 5 rows of success, sometimes it's 6, sometimes it's just him talking about Muhammad Ali. The man has earned the right to ramble. The reason why I think Arnold Schwarzenegger has always been a kind of an inspiration to me when I was growing up. This is themes that we've gone through many times. There's no kind of father figure at home. I'm looking for some sort of male role model. And basically most of them turn out to be action heroes or something like that. And it didn't help that my sister married Mark Baker as well. He was kind of like, we both started lifting weights and stuff when we were teenagers. You got me the Encyclopedia of Bodybuilding from Arnold Schwarzenegger, which is still an amazing book. It's like it's the very base for anyone who wants to start lifting weights and stuff like that. Like I know maybe some of the methods are outdated now, or some of the equipment
bro
is
science.
Yeah, there's a lot of bro science in there, but I think that a lot of the bro science becomes science eventually. Do you like it?
It's Arnie's blind ambition and just pure motivation that kind of got him to where he is now, and it's evident from that book. A lot of what he says, isn't necessarily based on science, and if he had believed how hard it would have been to get to where he was on the bodybuilding side, he probably wouldn't have started or wouldn't have tried as hard.
Exactly. So this guy, he's born in the middle of nowhere, Graz, in Austria, and becomes like, he just has this vision to go off and do these crazy things. His mom and dad want him to just stay in Graz and become a policeman and just have this normal life. But then he goes off, like goes to America, becomes Mr. Olympia, becomes the biggest paid film star in the world, marries a Kennedy, becomes the governor of California, and then has a love child with his mistress or whatever, or the nanny. So, I mean, great man, not a great husband, but we're going to focus on the positive here today. Like, I don't know if there's someone else out there who, for me, has that type of success record, right? He's been successful in lots of different things, and I think that really attracts me to people when they're not just successful in one thing, when they can do different things. And if anybody,
The Rock is probably quite similar to him.
You know what about The Rock, right? I love The Rock, love all, like a lot of his movies, all that type of stuff. I was a big fan of The Rock when I was a child, watching wrestling, all that type of stuff. The Rock, especially at the beginning of May, end of April, when the world was kind of ending with the COVID stuff. And then he started off one of his posts about, it's terrible, everyone's in lockdown. And then it kind of panned out to him. And then he tried to sell you tequila. He's like, nothing better than drink tequila with your friend or with your loved ones in your house. I'm like, dude, you're a psychopath. That's a crazy segue.
I think there's a touch of sociopathic tendencies to all these uber successful people.
And
we'll just forgive them.
Ubermensch. Okay, so listen, we've got this lined up for you like we did with the Matthew McConaughey stuff. So me and Mark are going to do some riffing on some of these rules, see if it's something that we agree with, see if it's something that we need to maybe dig in a little bit deeper out there for SharkNation. The kind of takeaways here is just to, if you're looking to do anything in life and be successful or achieve a goal, I don't think you can do much better than kind of learning from someone like Arnold Schwarzenegger. There's 2 suggestions I would make. One, for anyone out there who has got to their age in life and has not seen Pumping Iron, stop what you're doing, pause the tape, and go. It's on YouTube. Go watch the whole thing. That's what I'm saying. It's the best documentary, quote unquote, that I've ever seen. I've watched that so many times. It's fabulous. Anyway, so go do that. The second ask would be to read Arnold Schwarzenegger's book Total Recall. It is the most amazing story. It's almost unbelievable that someone could do all this in one life and he's still going. Like, the guy is thinking so big so early, which I love. Do you know he was a multi-millionaire before he made a movie? He was
through what? Selling.
He had a construction company. He had a mail order business selling. Do you know that great picture of him in the he's got like something over his head that's keeping his arms straight when he's doing his curls. Do you know that one? Where like this straps across his chest and everything. It's a great picture.
Oh yeah.
So just selling stuff in magazines. So he had that. He also invested heavily in a place called Venice Beach back in the day when no one wanted to buy there. And the rest is history there. He also had some big misses as well that don't really count. And that's something that we said in the podcast before. Like, it's so strange how you never hear Katie Taylor being announced as Olympic loser Katie Taylor. Only the wins stick. She lost last time, and no one cares. Only the wins matter. So, like, for instance, he bought a huge piece of land out in California in the middle of nowhere to build a Concorde airport. Obviously, that didn't work. Do you know what I mean? But
yeah,
he didn't know that Concorde were going to go out of business or whatever. But my point is, he's thinking big, and he's doing big. Like, some of the things in the book, you're like, I can't believe he's there at all these different points in history. You know what I mean? So, when
a lot of things he's done have been quite different.
Completely.
You know what I mean? Bodybuilding and acting is completely different, and he just gave it a shot. And he started a construction business with Franco Colombo.
Yeah,
and none of them had ever done any construction before in their lives. They blagged it. Probably not the best thing to do or legal, but
especially when you're building roofs, it does sound like. But like, I think it just goes to show, like, in America, you can just go out and do it. It's maybe America's the wrong way there. Although America's, I think, personally, whatever anyone says about America, I still think that's the best place to do it. America, Canada, that North America thing. But I think it's just being an immigrant somewhere, starting from scratch.
His inspiration was coming from Hollywood movies and magazines, and now you have, unlimited amount of inspiration.
Yeah, exactly. And he didn't have the leverage that we have now with the internet and all that type of stuff. He just had magazines. It's crazy. So we'll plow ahead, but so I think that if anybody wants a good read, it's pretty big one. It's like 400 pages, something, 500 maybe. But it's really, really interesting. It goes throughout the whole thing. One of the points, like, just to show how ingrained he was with American culture, like Hyannis Point, which is where the Kennedy compound is. Like, he was there in the compound when JFK Jr. Was killed in that plane crash, the biggest thing of that decade in America, and he's there with the family. It's just, how did he do this? Like, he never leaves the house with less than $1,000 in his wallet, and he says everyone should do that. So I think he's a little bit disconnected. But
The Rock also says that.
Yeah, I never go anywhere with less than $1,000 cash. That seems like a lot never to go anywhere. Like, when he goes, I go to the gym, I've got 1,000 on me the whole time just in case I need it. I'm like, okay.
Especially now, and everybody only takes card now.
Yeah. Anyway, let's do this. Okay. So, number one, we're going to talk about vision.
Says is to have a vision. You see, if you don't have a vision of where you go, and if you don't have a goal where you go, you drift around and you never end up anywhere. It's like you can have the best ship in the world, you can have the best airplane in the world. If the pilot or the captain doesn't know where to go, it would just drift around. It would not end up anywhere, or most likely in the wrong place. I couldn't see myself becoming a farmer or a worker in a factory or anything like that, even though my parents wanted me to stay there and have a normal life. My father wanted me to become a police officer like he was. My mother wanted me just to stay there and marry a girl with the name of Heidi, hopefully, and have a bunch of kids and run around like the Van Trapp family in The Sound of Music. But that was their vision, not mine. My vision was totally different. I felt that I was born for something special, for something unique, for something big.
Mark Baker, vision, something that is lacking in 99% of people's lives, I think. And that's not a criticism. I'm just saying it's something that we should be teaching our kids about. You know, what do you think about vision?
Yeah, vision's probably hand in hand with belief. It's the same thing. People are afraid to think big because they think it's not possible. They don't believe it's possible. So it's probably like, what's the point? So vision is different for everybody as well. I think long term, you should have short term and long term. He obviously had a big long term vision and it was huge. Yeah. And then he had probably smaller visions, you know, like, you know, become a bodybuilder, then the construction thing, then the property thing, and then with probably his goal, maybe it was to be the governor or president of America if he was allowed, but he wanted bigger and bigger every time. So it's like when he achieved one thing, he was on to the next, or did he have one ultimate vision? I don't know. In Total Recall, in the book, does he talk about an ultimate vision that he had, and did he just take the steps to get there?
He talks about running around like when he was like 15, he used to go running around this lake that was near Graz that I passed on a train once, and I was such a weirdo. I was like looking at him like, is that where you ran around? But but so what he's saying is that and we have another clip here where he goes into a little bit more detail, but he was saying that you've got to have a vision, not just because okay, you know, you got to know where you're going, but because it just keeps you on the path towards that, and it makes you just go, well, nothing else matters. Like, so say if you want to be the best bodybuilder in the world, that's your vision. You're thinking about that all the time, and you have to be, like, maybe not realistic's the wrong word, but you've got to have, you know, you've got to be 6'2" and German if you're going to do that, or maybe a different way genetically. There has to be that type of, you know, spark. But my point here is, as long as you've got that long-term vision and you're working towards it every day, I think that's something that almost nobody has, and it would keep you so focused. So say if your vision is to build like, let's take Jennifer from last week. She, like, her vision is to solve this problem for the legal industry. That's a proper vision to go after. So it doesn't matter if she's doing that from West Cork. It doesn't matter what her peers are doing. You're out of the competition with other people, because it doesn't matter. Like, anything that they are doing or what they think about your progress, as long as you're going the right direction towards that vision, you just have to keep going. But most people, they don't have that. They just go through life, and I'm definitely guilty of this as well. You know, sometimes I stop and I say to myself, why am I doing this? Why am I stressed out about this? Why do I? And it's not just about work. It could be about anything, but mostly with work. But like you got to kind of pause sometimes and say, okay, where do I want to be in 3 years with this? And if what you're doing doesn't feed into that, just stop doing it. It gives yourself permission, right, to make decisions like that, right? You don't have to make a decision about everything, because you can say to yourself, okay, if there's a fork in the road, if you want to be the director of sales for a company, and then you get an offer to go do a really interesting project in another company that, you know, it's good money now as well, maybe better money than you're on now, but you don't have to make that decision, because that's not part of the vision. The vision is that, you know, it just gives you that kind of clarity. That's what I think, anyway.
Yeah, I think having a vision is something that some people don't have, and maybe there should be something in school or college, or maybe it's separate, and you sit down and you say, where would you like to be in 10 years time? Where would you not like to be? Okay, maybe it's you just don't want to be that 50-year-old guy doing that, whatever job that is, well then, okay, use that as your vision. So how do you avoid that?
Yeah.
And then it'll manifest itself into something, and then stick to that, go for it. If you pivot, you pivot. But I would speak to a lot of accountants in what I do, candidates, and I'd say, and they're looking for a job, and they're looking to move job, and they're 30 years of age or 25 years of age, whatever it is. And I'll say, what's your 5-year plan? Do you have any idea? Some have absolutely no idea. Never mind 10-year or where they see themselves, at 50 or 40. They just hadn't thought of it yet. Because life is tough. And you're just kind of thinking, a couple of steps ahead.
And you've got to. It's different when you're putting out fires, or you're just like when I said when I landed in Canada, and we were almost out of money. The vision is getting the rent paid at that stage. But when you're kind of settled in, it's interesting to think a little bit long term. I was listening to this other podcast by Tom Bailu. I always get his last name. You know the guy, the protein bar guy.
Tony Quinn.
No, shout out to my boy Tony Quinn. No, the guy.
Him and Arnie, two inspirations as a 17-year-old kid.
Yeah. So do you know the Quest bar guy?
Yeah.
Tom Bailu, I think his name is.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, he had somebody on called Itzler was his last name anyway, and he sold marquee jets to Warren Buffett. Really successful guy. And his take on the vision thing was more a life resume. So it's like, picture yourself when you're 60 and you've got your resume there. Fill in the bits that you think would be good. It doesn't all have to be about work. It could be how much money you have to pass on. It could be what mountains you've climbed, if that's what you're into. Do you like that way? I think people would benefit from that, because people, especially in sales, everyone's living month to month, and their happiness is based on that. But imagine if you had a long-term vision, and you had, I know people who are really talented salespeople or whatever, and they have 3 bad months in a row, and they're questioning what they're doing with their lives. Do you know what I mean? And that can happen to anybody. So it's something to keep in mind.
They're putting a lot of their own self-worth and value into something that's a month-by-month basis, which is tough.
Yeah. I was about to give an absolute piece of my mind to somebody recently. And I know when you've thought about it in your mind, I'm like, okay, and then if they come back with this, I'm going to hit them with it. Do you know? But then I decided not to, because it doesn't help in where I'm going. Do you know? I'm trying to build the biggest CRM reseller network in Europe. That's my vision. That's what I'm doing. Getting into a one-upsmanship with somebody, it's not going to help at all. It doesn't help. In fact, I might need that person later on. Do you know? To achieve that vision. Okay, number 2.
I went to college. I went and worked out 5 hours a day, and I was working on construction, because in those days in bodybuilding there was no money. I didn't have the money for food supplements or anything, so I had to go to work. So I worked on construction. I went to college. I worked out in the gym, and at night from 8 o'clock at night to 12 midnight, I went to acting class 4 times a week. So I did all of that. There was not one single minute that I wasted. And this is why I'm standing here today. At the age of 20, I went to London and I won the Mr. Universe contest as the youngest Mr. Universe ever. And it was because I had a goal. You see, if you don't have a vision of where you go, and if you don't have a goal where you go, you drift around and you never end up anywhere. 74% hate their job in America. The majority of people don't like what they're doing, because they're really not doing it because they didn't have a goal and they followed this goal. They just aimlessly drift around, and then all of a sudden there's a job opening, so they get their job because you have to work. But then when you work, it's a chore. It's work. It's not fun. So if you think about, only a quarter of the people really enjoy what they're doing in life. So people always ask me, when they saw me in the gym in the pumping iron days. They said, why is it that you're working out so hard? 5 hours a day, 6 hours a day, and you have always a smile on your face. The others are working out just as hard as you do, and they look sour in the face. Why is that? And I told people all the time, I said, because to me, I'm shooting for a goal. In front of me is the Mr. Universe title. So every rep that I do gets me closer to accomplishing that goal, to make this goal, this vision turn into reality. Every single set that I do, every repetition, every weight that I lift will get me a step closer to turn this goal into reality. So I couldn't wait to do another 500-pound squat. I couldn't wait to do another 500-pound bench press. I couldn't wait to do another 2,000 reps of sit-ups. I couldn't wait for the next exercise. So let me tell you something, visualizing your goal and going after it makes it fun. You got to have a purpose no matter what you do in life. You got to have a purpose.
So he is talking about there making it fun. And it's only fun if it has a goal in the end. If the goal is just, I think, I was thinking about this recently. I think that financial goals are the worst goals. Like, it's not, so once you have enough, you have enough. And then you start to turn into Scrooge McDuck, counting your ducats. And every month you put another ducat on top. You know, I'm talking about a very specific scene in a Mickey's Christmas Carol, but do you know what I mean? Like you're just, Mark's laughing because we watch that in the Curry household every Christmas Eve. So, what my point is there with the Scrooge McDuck, no one respects him, even though he has the most money. He's just been a hoarder of it, you know?
Yeah, but he's attached so much of his own value to the money. It then becomes a game of, I can't lose it. I need to make the money at all costs, and that cost is, Bob Cratchit.
Bob Cratchit. Put an old lump of coal in the fire there, Bob. No, no. It's,
but you know what I mean. Like, and then he's a miser, and then he loses all his personal relationships. So yeah, you're right. Financial shouldn't be really
like financial in that way. Like no one. Say if you were just the best saver, you've been saving since you're 14 when you start working or whatever, and you've got, you saved up $1 million, right? Does anyone want to get you on a podcast? Are you very interesting? You've probably never done anything. Do you know what I mean? People don't care. If you had started something, you had a vision to end homelessness, and you are dead broke, but you've made a dent in that problem that's facing society. People want to talk to you. People respect you for that. Do you like it? I just think when people like starting something new, a lot of entrepreneurs, they do a lot of interviews and stuff like that. I always think it's funny how interested people are in entrepreneurship and how little people go out and start their own business. Do you ever, what's that about?
I think the interest is in the risk. People can't fathom how others can take the risks that they're unwilling to take.
Is that because when you look at some of these interviews on YouTube and stuff, these guys who are not just like, they have good businesses. They're not even crazy like Zuckerbergs or whatever, but they've done well. And there's 16 million views. You think that's 16 million entrepreneurs watching that? But why are they watching it? Why does it apply to them? I'm not having to go with them, but I'm saying it's a very interesting thing that we're all very interested. If we're in business, we're way more interested in if someone says they're the VP of technology at a company, or some like Jennifer last week who's just getting started. I want to talk to Jennifer. She's gone all in. That's what it is. We're kind of excited about that.
Maybe it's because people know how the others are thinking, and they don't know how the entrepreneurs are thinking, and that's what's so fascinating. They're trying to get into their minds and understand the decision, why they chose a different path, because it is a different path. I know why I chose mine was because I don't like being told what to do.
Yeah.
I couldn't be an employee any longer. I know I had goals and ideas, and I wanted to implement them. But I think with Arnie, he has the vision, and then he understands the vision gives him direction. So he understands then it's only a case of reps. He's talking about reps. He's equating it back, I think, to bodybuilding. Bodybuilding is very, very simple science.
Yeah.
The real science, not bro science. And you do a certain amount of reps, a certain amount of resistance, and your muscle gets damaged and repairs itself, and you fill it with, protein that grows bigger. That's probably not right, but something like that.
You become obsessed, don't you? Just to
Because
see
you see the results quite gradually, and it's quite evident. And then he's obviously used that, and he's seeing how successful he could be there, and he tries to apply then what steps are involved to becoming an actor. Okay, well, I'll do the acting classes, and I don't mind doing them because I know it's actually not a waste of time. He's filling up every single hour of his day. Something that I try to do, I probably shouldn't. He also doesn't sleep much. What did he say? Just sleep faster. But he gets 6 hours, but he just sleeps faster.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. So it's kind of like I love the idea that you can, if you just think about the reps, and if you think that there's no risk in doing the reps, like no one's going to stop you from doing that. There's no one on defense. No one's stopping you from being the best actor in the world. You can do it just with reps. That's what he believed. That's what, even if that seemed to be the case, but it's
he's also alleviating monetary risk by putting the work in and still actually having a job. So he's educating himself. He's following a goal. He's getting money in.
Yeah. That's a really interesting thing you picked up on there. How many people are trying to be professional surfers living in their van? Instead of, I know they're going all in and stuff like that, but there's some practicalities there that he was taking care of. And then imagine going to those acting, what are they? Not interviews. What are they called?
What can I think of? Audition.
Yeah. When he goes to the audition, imagine if they're like everyone else in the audition. Not only are they not 167 pounds, but they are. I know exactly what the weight was. Anyway,
doesn't seem that heavy, actually.
Not really. Well, back then it was more kind of aesthetic. But anyway, imagine going to those auditions and then you know that you're already a millionaire.
Yeah. See, for some people, it will be you get one chance, because if you don't do it this time, you go broke and you lose everything. If you do it properly and put the reps in and make sure everything is covered as much as possible, it allows you to take a few different chances, because it mightn't work the first time. It might take you 5 years, not the 1 year that you gave yourself because you went all in. All in and do everything else, basically.
He like The Rock, just do everything. No.
Yeah.
Here's a quick anecdote from the book that it's not on our soundboard today, but he wanted to be, after he was the Terminator, and he was getting $20 million a picture, which back then that's probably not that much right now, is it? I don't know, but
no,
back then this is the 80s. This is a lot of money. So he had a new vision. He thought he wanted to be the most successful comedic actor in the world, and they're like, "You're not funny at all. You barely have any lines." Do you know what I mean? This is before Kindergarten Cop and the hilarity that ensued in that. But
I watched it the other week.
Yeah, so good. Still holds up. That was actually filmed in BC, near where I used to live. Anyway, but my point is here, he went in and he said he wants to make twins. That was his first one with Danny DeVito.
Oh yeah.
He went in and they said, "Arnold, we've got a stack of Terminator sequels to do. This is not, stay in your lane. And he said, "No, I want to do this." And they go, "Okay, we can do it, but we're gonna give you 5 million because it's gonna be a flop. You're not gonna get 20 million for this." Then he said, "Why don't you give me no money and just give me a cut of the back end? Give me a cut of the profits." And the rest is history. He made more money off Twins than any movie that he's ever done.
Really?
At the time, I think he might have made more now.
Yeah.
And then went on to make, other great movies. Last Action Hero, another comedy. Jingle All the Way. Come on.
Also different. He did superhero one, wasn't he, in Batman and
Yeah.
End of Days and
a psychological thriller he's got. Like he's done it. Like my point is, he bets on himself as well. So he's okay, you think it's going to be a flop? Okay, well I won't take any money, but it's going to cost you more. I think he made $100 million from that.
Wow,
something like that. Spent it on a Concorde airport. So it's not all going to be home runs. That's another thing.
Never took off.
Never took off. You son of a gun. Okay, here, let's move on.
We break the rules. We have so many rules in life about everything. I say break the rules, not the law, but break the rules. It is impossible to be a maverick or a true original if you're too well behaved and don't want to break the rules. You have to think outside the box. That's what I believe. After all, what is the point of being on this earth if all you want to do is be liked by everyone and avoid trouble? The only way that I ever got any place was by breaking some of the rules.
I love this one. I love the idea of telling people to break the rules. There's a few rules out there that I've broken on the way. I don't call it breaking the rules. My thing is skipping the queue. How do we skip the queue? If you ever find yourself in a situation where there's a lot of people ahead of you for a job, those type of jobs where it's like, I'll be waiting a long time if I want to be manager here. How can you skip the queue?
Yeah, everybody gravitates towards the kind of where the herd is going, and it's, I don't know if that's a primal thing. It probably is a primal thing. I know we didn't travel in herds, tribal thing, yeah. But what if you can actually teach yourself? That'd be a great thing to be able to, even if it was, you get hypnotized to think outside the box, to always look to skip the queue at all costs, as long as it's not illegal, or the legal ramifications aren't, material. So, like we were at the zoo one time, and there was an absolutely huge queue. There's a few different ways you can kind of go into Dublin Zoo. Yeah. And it was an absolutely massive queue roasting out. And I don't know why I was in the kind of a mood where I'll just see what it's like at the top. And I just said, right, I'll go all the way to the top, left the family at the back. And I started to see, like, there was a space where only a few people were trickling into, and it wasn't part of the other queue. So I just said to everybody else, like, let's come on. And we honestly skipped about a half an hour queue and walked straight in.
It's such a great metaphor because those side entrances are all over the place.
Yeah. And then I said, look, I'll go in and feed the lions myself. And they said, maybe don't skip that queue.
Yeah, we got to get earn your stripes there on that one. But there's a few things that I've done as well where, like, when I was younger, I used to bend the rules more maybe than I would now, maybe because I've got more to lose. But for instance, it's because of the Arnold Schwarzenegger book, I spent a lot of time in gyms, and we talked about how you kind of get obsessed with the growing because you see that it's working. Very few things in life that you can actually see your effort gives you stuff instantly, right? And the mark never really stopped me. It went up to 118 kilos. Just the swollen creatine face. And you're just egging me on. just I went past the line, and there's a picture of me trying to play football, and it's absolute, like, I look ridiculous out there. But anyway, so my point is there. Yeah, so I knew a lot about exercising, and I knew a lot about sports. I'd been playing sports all my life and that type of thing. So I wanted to work in a gymnasium. But at the time, they didn't. I hope this isn't illegal now. I didn't actually do. Maybe I shouldn't take this. There's got to be some sort of.
You can paste over the serious bits.
Yeah, exactly.
The risky bits.
Yeah, so I went in and tried to get a job as a fitness instructor, and they're like, "Oh, do you have any qualifications?" I went, "Yeah, sure," and then they never asked me for them. So I kind of skipped the queue, and one of my friends was training to be a personal trainer in college, and he was really annoyed at me because I just went in and got the job, and I did so well that they promoted me. I was, I guess, like the assistant manager out in another branch. I did really well because I knew I could do it. So I skipped the queue, not because I knew I could do the job. That was the point, So
was that during summer, or was it a part-time job? It was a full-time job during the summer.
It was a full-time job during college.
during college.
Yeah, I
you
think
needed,
the first
you
year-
needed that. You didn't do much in that job anyway. So I heard you said someone once walked in and you had your feet on the table listening to Bruce Springsteen.
Yeah, the new album Magic had come out. It was a great album, and they gave me an office in this particular place, and like all these people who had been, I was about 20, I was less than 20 because I was in first year of college, I was 19 or something, and I was like, telling these people what they're going to do for classes and stuff like that, and I made my class schedule quite light because I was making them. So,
And was that the same year that you wanted to go away somewhere and you then left and then you were busking outside?
Could have been the same year.
And the people saw you there busking with somebody.
Yeah, it could have been the same. It could have been the same year. I was busking. I don't play an instrument, which is tough when you're busking. Let me tell you. I had a bower on. Anyway, off topic there. My point was: is there any way? Think at the Shark Nation out there. Everybody should think about look at their life, and if they're in some sort of queue, if there's a lot of people there, look for an alternative, because there's always an alternative. A quick example of that is if you want to be an account executive in a tech company in Ireland, you'll get 100 grand a year. You'll get more than that if you're really good. In some places, you can get 6 figures, good wage. To be a account executive anywhere, usually you'd have to be a business development rep beforehand. That's how the sequence works. So if I would have wanted to do that in Ireland, I'd have to compete with every graduate, coming out of college that will work for almost nothing, and that usually take about 2 years of doing that. That kind of top of funnel, very, jumping on like 100 calls a day type of role. You'd be doing that for 2 years, right? I went to Canada, found a smaller company, and started doing BDR, and within 3 months I got promoted to account executive. And then when I came back, I went in at that level. So in 2 years, instead of just being a brand new account executive, when I got to Ireland, I had almost 2 years experience doing that and the BDR stuff behind me already. Do you know what I mean? And then, so that's skipping the queue. Just one example.
Yeah.
Right? So keep that in mind. Out there. Okay, cool. Let's move on.
When you start doubting yourself, that's very dangerous. Because now what you're basically saying is that if my plan doesn't work, I have a fallback plan. I have a plan B. And that means that you start thinking about plan B, and every thought that you put into plan B, you're taking away now that thought and that energy from plan A. And it's very important to understand that we function better if there is no safety net.
What do you think about this? This one for me, like, I like the idea of burning the boats. Do you know what I mean? And maybe,
I wanted to hang a picture of, there's a famous painting of the burning of the what?
Sorry, go on.
The burning of the boats, and I think it might be Columbus or one of the
Hernan Cortez, I believe.
That's who it was. Yeah, when we first started our business, I wanted to get that and hang it on the wall. I just never got around to it.
We should have 100% get that. That could be that could be right there beside Bono behind me on the wall, burning the boats. Like, I don't know. This one's a difficult one for me. It's the leap that a lot of people are not able to make, and maybe that's the voyeurs that are watching these interviews of entrepreneurs but not doing anything themselves, or it could be anything. Do you like that right?
Yeah, but like it's more about not having a plan B per se, but how do you make the leap an easier leap from where you are now to where you want to be? And the only way you get there is the goal or the vision, then the direction, the drive, which comes from the why you want it. It could be a chip on your shoulder, it could be family reasons or whatever. And then how can you kind of build a platform to dive off. There's a lot of analogies here. So you don't get eaten by other sharks.
Are you in the Speedos at this stage? Oh, sorry, go on.
Because that's what he was doing. You know, he didn't necessarily have a plan B. He knew what he wanted to do, but he was doing everything he could possibly do to make it achievable, rather than just taking a random leap.
Because I know we'll go back to Jennifer a lot because she's kind of like top of mind. She was there last week, but
yeah,
it's like at one stage, I don't know, I can't remember exactly who said it to her, some investor or maybe someone at the accelerator that she was in. I remember they said something like, "Are you still working as well?" And that was the kind of thing where she goes, "Oh yeah, I'm not all in here." Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
There's a book by I forget his first name, Talib. Know you, man? The kind of Black Swan guy.
Oh yeah.
What's his first name now? I forget his name.
Nassim, is it?
Nassim Talib. Yeah.
Yeah.
I got it on audiobook. I got it on Audible. You guys can go to Audible and get it for free in the link below. But shameless plug. But he talks about, he has another book called Skin in the Game. And it's really interesting, like how he talks about, you know, when you're watching the news and they have all these people on that are, so there, some professor might be talking about a vaccine and kind of poo-pooing the idea. Some, you know, he's the head of biology in the University of South Norwich. He doesn't have skin in the game. We shouldn't listen to him. Mm-hmm. What does he have? He can be wrong and nothing happens. Do you know what I mean? And he talks about how he only invests in companies and stuff like that where the founder has mortgaged the house. You've got to make it work. Do you know what I mean? There's no plan B there.
Yeah. And that's another thing that people think with startups, whether it's you know, any kind of business that has an investor or some sort of seed capital off somebody else, they think, especially the tech startups, they think they got $1 million, you know, or they got $500,000 to do this. But they also had to put skin and they had to put some money in themselves, the founders. Founders don't just get cash for free and all the risk is on the investor. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
At least not that I know of.
No. And
you have to put skin in the game.
Exactly. Whether that's you've quit your job for 3 years and you haven't taken a pay or salary for that time or something. That could be skin. You might be flat broke and you need the cash investment. But at least they know it's not a part-time thing. Do you know what I mean? No one wants to invest in part-timers. Or as what's your man? I'm not good at names today, guys. But the guy, not Eamon Dunphy. What's the guy? He has kind of a potato head on RT. He used to. He's gone now.
You froze on me there.
What's his name? The guy who used to be on the RT panel for football.
Eamon Dunphy.
Johnny Giles. Johnny Giles. Yeah, that's who I'm thinking of. So Johnny Giles, he always talks about this idea of sunshine boys.
Okay.
How he doesn't want them in his team. There's a lot of sunshine boys out there.
And what does that mean?
It means, you know, they want to play when the weather's good. They're not players. When their back's against the wall, they don't like it. Do you know what I mean? How many people have you worked with in your career who are sunshine players who just like, yeah, I'm here just because it's kind of suits. I'm not all in or anything on this job. Do you know, right? It's not very inspiring. Do you know? So anyway, that's what we're talking about when we're talking about burn the votes. I love the idea of that Hernan Cortez thing. I might get that tattooed. I can get some fucking ink. Where that came from?
I'm telling you, I've never ever had a plan B. I say I made a full commitment that I'm gonna go and be a bodybuilding champion. I made a full commitment that I'm gonna be in America. I made a full commitment that I'm gonna get in the show business and I'm going to be a leading man. No matter what it takes, I will do the work. I will do the work over and over and over until I get it. And the same was in politics and everything like that. So to me, it is very dangerous to have a plan B because you're cutting yourself off from the chance of really succeeding. And the reason, one of the main reasons why people want to have a plan B is because they are worried about failing. What is if I fail, then I don't have anything else? Well, let me tell you something, don't be afraid of failing because there's nothing wrong with failing. You have to fail in order to climb that ladder. There's no one that doesn't fail. Michael Jordan said in one of his interviews, when they said, "You're unbelievable, you're the greatest basketball player of all times." I mean, tell me about that. And he says, well, you're just mentioning the successes. But he says, for me to become the greatest basketball player, I missed 9,000 shots when I was playing basketball at the NBA games. So during these games that he was so successful, he missed 9,000 shots. Does it make him a failure? No. He's one of the greatest basketball players of all times, but he failed 9,000 times. Do you get it? We all fail. It's okay.
Interesting one here as well. So you kind of talked about the plan B there, but kind of went on to talk about, you know, that fear of failure that people have. Really nice allusion he made to Michael Jordan there, missing 9,000 times. Again, no one's talking about those. Joe?
I watched The Last Dance, and it looked like he only missed about 3 shots.
Yeah, well, you know, some clever editing there, and that we're not mad at the SharkPod. But the idea of failing is so, like, I want to know what's the driver there? Because, you know, for most things it doesn't really matter. You can go in the dole if you fail, or maybe can't if you're self-employed. But, you know, you can deliver Uber Eats until you get back on your feet.
Yeah.
What's the why do people, why are they
shame? I think it's shame more than a lack of, more than kind of hitting the bottom and not being able to come back. I think it's probably the shame and the fear of the exclusion from the tribe. Again, coming back to tribal stuff, I imagine that's really where it comes from, as opposed to the fear of not being able to do it again. It's a shame of failing.
It's a weird shame. Is it? It shouldn't be. Like, I know, like there's people, like there's one person, not at HubSpot, in one of the other big tech companies that I know, and they had the opportunity to do something completely new, you know, in the business. Great opportunity, you know, huge growth opportunity for their career, for, you know, eventually money, all that type of stuff. And they wouldn't take it because they don't know if it's going to work or not. And I said to her, like, if you don't do it, what's going to happen? Oh, I'll just continue just being in sales. And I go, why would you want to do that? Oh, well, you know, I'm good at that. Okay, well, you'll have exactly what you've always had then. Do you know what I mean? I always want to see what's next. I always want to see what's next. Do you know? But
why do people not tell their friends and family that they're going for a job interview?
Did people do that?
Oh yeah, Jesus, all the time. Most people don't tell their friends or family that they're doing a job interview in case they fail.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I'm just a mouth, as my mother would say. I'm like, everybody, I'm an open book. If I was going for an interview, I'd be like to my boss, I'm like, yeah, I got this interview coming up. It's tough out there. But
it's a numbers game though.
Yeah, so I'm going to keep the head up now. So it's an interesting one, because if you could imagine, like, I don't know, it might have been Arnold Schwarzenegger, but it could have been someone else. But I heard once on a podcast, I'm like, what would you do if you knew that you couldn't fail? Or the Tim Ferriss thing where he's like, you know, eat beans for a week, and then you realize you can eat beans. Like, I used to keep a bit, like my friend Amelia in work used to laugh because I would always have a can of beans on my desk. And she would be like, you never eat those. And I was like, that's just as a reminder. If I lose a deal, I'm just like, just back to the beans on toast. Good. You know, so I don't know. Maybe if you're out there and if fear of failure has been a big thing for you, it's been a big thing for, I think, everybody, you know. But for instance, we were talking about the Ironman training, and the whole thing was we were going to make this training a big part of, not a big part, but part of the kind of podcast as well, and do videos and content. And I didn't do it, just in case I couldn't do it. Do you know what I mean?
Well, you were getting results though. You're still getting results though. I don't know why you wouldn't just do it.
I don't know what.
Do you know what? Here's a little thing. I often will do a painting and I'm not confident at the start how it's going to turn out. So I'll video clips of me painting it and take progress pictures. And then when I'm finished the painting, I'll post the first picture of the first progress shot, like, because I wasn't confident enough that I was going to be able to do it right.
And you didn't want at the end to be like, actually, I'm not going to put this out.
Yeah. And it's never once happened that well, not in a long time, probably 10 years where I've actually just gave up on a picture.
Yeah.
There you go.
There you go. Like I said, and also this is something really interesting that this is the kind of the elephant in the room. Failures are so interesting. Like if you had a business like and you raised $100 million or like say if you're in charge of Lehman Brothers and then 5 years later you're on a podcast, everyone wants to talk to you. Of course, that's the interesting thing. If it's interesting.
The Wolf of Wall Street.
It couldn't have been a better example. Like that was.
He makes a living off his wild life, but ultimately ended in a series of failures.
Yeah, exactly. So maybe maybe if anyone out there listening, don't try to fail, but don't be afraid. don't bet on being able to make a living off that. But like
it's worth probably studying failure or reading a book on failure.
And then if you're not failing at something, you're not trying hard enough.
Yeah. Yeah. If you live your life so carefully that you've never made any mistakes, you've failed by default.
Like if there's going to be, I had this another idea for a podcast as well, that I might do like some sort of time capsule advice for my future children. Do you know what I mean? So this is what I would suggest for you guys, and have like a list of things we can talk about. I think that'd be good for listeners, but also good for the kids.
Are we gonna make our kids listen back to all these?
Not all of them, but maybe that one.
Have you a time capsule of 2 weeks worth of
yeah,
audio?
exactly. I think there might be something in that. And then I said that to Katie, and Katie's like, "Oh, that's a great idea." But why don't you, Mark, just do that? You don't have to make a podcast out of it. It doesn't have to be sponsored by Audible. Maybe we'll do something like that later on.
3. Muhammad Ali worked his butt off, and I saw it firsthand. And I remember that there was a sports writer that was there in the gym when he was working out. He was doing sit-ups. And they asked him, "How many sit-ups do you do?" And he said, "I don't start counting until it hurts." Now think about that. He doesn't start counting his sit-ups until he feels pain. That's when he starts counting. That is working hard. And so you can't get around the hard work. It doesn't matter who it is. Work your ass off. There is no magic pill. There is no magic out there. You cannot get around. You have to work and work and work. Make sure of this and make sure of that and all that stuff. So it's work. And it drives me crazy when people say that they don't have enough time to go to the gym for 45 minutes a day and work out. Or to do something for 45 minutes to an hour a day to improve. If it is physically improve or if it is mentally to improve. Imagine you read 1 hour a day about history. How much you will learn after 365 hours in 1 year. Think about if you study about the history of musicians, of composers, how much you would know. Imagine if you would work on a business, on some business that you want to develop every day for an hour. Imagine how further along you will go and get. So it drives me nuts because when people say we don't have the time, we have 24 hours a day. We sleep 6 hours a day, so that gives you still 18 hours. So there's someone shaking their head out here in front to say probably, "I don't sleep 6 hours, I sleep 8 hours," right? Or just sleep faster. So we have 18 hours a day. The average person works around 8 to 10 hours. So let's assume it's 10 hours, so we have 8 hours left. Then you travel around an hour a day, maybe 2 hours a day. So now you have still 6 hours left.
So Arnie, breaking it down for you there on the hard work. This one, like, I'm big on the 4-hour work week, still yet to be implemented. But like, obviously, I'm very hardworking at the job. I put in a lot of hours, that type of stuff. But like, I don't know if that should. What do you think about that? Is that good advice?
I think work hard and work smart, not one or the other.
Okay.
Because I think if you just work smart, you probably won't get too much. You just won't reach your potential if you're starting off your life with the view that I'm just going to work smart for the rest of my life. You have to you have to work hard. You have to batch work at something at some stage and put in, a 10-hour shift someday, whatever it is.
As well, because you're around anyway. Sometimes I'm thinking that.
Like most people just want, 4 or 5 hours a day to themselves to go and do what they like. It's quite achievable. Like if you had all day, every day, like I've been on, gardening leave, and it's, the days are long.
Yeah, exactly.
You can busy yourselves with them, but you're kind of like a busy fool at times. But I think breaking it down into hour by hour, almost minute by minute, like he's had to do because he was doing so many things. And I could be guilty of that as well. I don't think it should be the ultimate goal. I don't think you should be literally trying to fill your day with everything productive. I think that's also, not really living.
Like, it's okay for people who are where there's an input output relationship with money, or with even with
time
state
and effort,
or that type of thing. But like, I've known people who have quite steady jobs, as in there's going to be, whether they do a huge amount of work or a decent amount of work, they're going to get the same money. So just putting the hard work in, so they might get a promotion, they get an extra $1,000 or $2,000 a year. I don't think that's working smart. Do you know what I mean? There has to be a huge upside. That's why I love sales. That's why I love the kind of the speculative work. Like I did loads of speculative. Oh, sorry,
coronavirus.
But yeah, so I did loads of speculative work today, as in like, teasing out things that may not work out, deals, that type of thing. But like, so I was working particularly hard. I put in a lot of hours a day, but there could be a big payoff. Do you know what I mean? So make sure whatever you're doing, there should be a asymmetrical relationship to the amount of effort that you put in, whether from what you get out. That's something
that's why I think like team sports are obviously good. And maybe that's not a good example. Like the Leaving Cert or college, the amount of time and effort you put in to those tests, to studying, if you actually, that just proves, right, I can do that. If you do well and you actually implement that and you achieve the results and pass. If you apply that to anything else in life, whether it's money related or not, think of the results you could get.
I just had I had a conversation with myself when I was running today, about this. About, I started work when I was like 24 properly, like, because I was in college until then, doing the masters and stuff. My masters cost, I think, so the masters cost €13,000. The government paid for half of it, but let's say they didn't. So it'd be €13,000 plus the year that I'm not getting paid for working full time. Say the amount of productivity that I was putting out at that stage of my career wouldn't have been that much. Let's say if it was a normal job, say 30 grand a year or whatever, so that's €43,000. If I took €43,000 and like started a art and hobby, like Etsy thing, and put in, when I was doing my masters, I was there from 8 till 8 every day. That is insane for free, for no money. That is insane. When I think about it, I can't even. I'm angry at myself about that. Do you know what I mean? That I couldn't see it. I was too blinded by society, and that's. My Lukey's doing a masters there. Do you know that type of way, like just being well behaved, not breaking any of the rules. The real rules would be I got a loan to go to to go to do the masters, like, because I didn't have any money. So it took me years to pay off that student. It's just stupid, like really, really stupid stuff. I actually should have told them I was going to college, take the money and go spend it on horses. It was gone anyway. Do you know what I mean? It was gone anyway, so I could have just gambled it. At least I give myself an upside. So I know I'm really going hard on, and it was a nice year and that sort of stuff, studying in the very fancy library and stuff. Came out, no one gave no people. In fact, they're anti people with masters a lot of the time. So like this, who does this guy think?
maybe in your line of work, but if you didn't know what you wanted to do, it is certainly alleviating a lot of risk going forward. Like you're going to be okay if you have that in the bank. Yeah,
maybe it's easy for me to say. At the time, the Ireland was collapsing, and I got a graduate job, and other people didn't. So maybe there is something in it.
Yeah.
But I just think if you had 40 grand, like, could you double your money doing something, buying used tires, 40 grand's worth of used tires, and just selling them on eBay? What are you doing with your life? I was really annoyed when I was running, just thinking about that.
But then again, it's proven to you what you can actually do if you put that amount of effort in. So if you can put that in and actually get not a lot of results out of it that you can see, get those used tires up onto eBay.
Get those used tires up onto eBay.
Is there a market for that?
I don't know. There might be. Okay, we're gonna wrap this up soon. I want to do a couple more.
3, the rule number 4, which is don't listen to the naysayers. I mean, how many times have you heard that you can't do this, you can't do that, and it has never been done before? As a matter of fact, I love it when someone says that no one has ever done this before, because then when I do it, that means that I'm the first one that has done it. So pay no attention to the people that say it can't be done.
Quick one there, but a big one in Ireland, perhaps. We're kind of known for the begrudging, for sure, but also for a lot of times there's some naysayers out there. It's an interesting one, and it made me think about Arnold Schwarzenegger as someone who sees himself on his own. He doesn't see himself as part of any group. Do you get that? Like, he's not.
Yeah, he hasn't mentioned being part of any particular team or group of friends or people that were, along with him for the ride with the same goal. There couldn't be two Arnold Schwarzeneggers. Otherwise, Franco Columbo would have been, competing against him, or would have been getting similar roles or whatever,
A chiropractor, which is fine.
Yeah.
But rest in peace, Columbo this year.
Well, there was Sylvester Stallone. That was his competitor. But
and with the naysayer stuff, there's one anecdote from his book as well. He talks about when he went into, like, a lot of the agents turned him down because of his accent. They said, you'll never get an accent in your name is ridiculous. Like, how
did you get that in your career with your accent?
With my up and down accent? I think I did, actually. We used to talk about, in my one-on-ones with my manager in Canada, I used to talk about toning down the Irish lilt.
In Canada?
In Canada. Isn't that weird? I don't think you'd be allowed to do that in Ireland.
Yeah, actually, yeah. Would have been
like
Irish charm. No, I'd have been open it.
Oh, I was a little bit, especially if I was calling someone like with the last name O'Kelly or something. They were getting the false hospitality over the phone, let me tell you. Anyway, okay, so that was the kind of the naysayers. We've got one more. 3,
don't be afraid to fail. 3, don't be afraid to fail.
We kind of went ourselves.
Hammering that home.
We hammered it home. I hit it 3 times there. I just want to make sure that people, maybe that means, don't be afraid to fail. The Arnold Schwarzenegger story might be the name of this podcast. But that's kind of all the stuff I wanted to bring up today. There's some more stuff on Plan B, but I think that kind of covered it. We're at an hour and 10 here. But I think if the takeaways for this one would be, when I was a child, I got a book by Tony Robbins, and I forget which one it was, but it talked about modeling, taking there's people who are out there who've already done what you want to do. So although you can't, emulate them completely, there are kind of signposts in there, and Arnold Schwarzenegger kind of gives you the keys It's up to you whether you want to use them. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So maybe end with what your favorite points were. My favorite points were vision. I love that idea of just having vision means, okay, we're going over there. It's leadership. Do you know what I mean? Seeing what's going to happen next, even if you can't tell the future. So I really like that one. I like break the rules. My children are going to be rule breakers. That's my thing. I'm like, whatever they want to do, I'm like, okay, so let's sit down. How can we break the rules to skip the queue? I don't want you to get 600 points because it's too hard. What do you want at the end of that? Okay, you want to get into medicine. Okay, how about this? You guys are Canadian because I'm Canadian. Let's apply as a foreign person. I'll just pay for it. Do you know what I mean? Just skip the queue. Just walk in. I love that. So skipping the queue and breaking the rules. I think that's kind of my favorite one. What do you think? What do you think, Mark?
Yeah, I do like the breaking the rules, or we've mentioned it before, using an unfair advantage. Anything like that, I think, is so impactful, and you can actually see results from that quite quickly and quite clearly. Like there's that famous quote I like from George Bernard Shaw. I'm paraphrasing now, but it says, "The reasonable man looks at the world and thinks, how can I change to fit in? And the unreasonable man looks at the world and thinks, how can the world change to fit me?" So therefore, the world is shaped by unreasonable people. I just think and Arnold Schwarzenegger was unreasonable, you know.
Yeah, is check your life and see if there's a place where you've been too reasonable, like, and if it's because of fear of failure, naysayers, because you're not breaking the rules enough, because you don't have vision, because you have too much of a plan B, Arnold Schwarzenegger is going to come after you, you know, spiritually. On that bombshell, let's leave it there today. I'd like to thank our special guest, Arnold Schwarzenegger. You can download his audiobook at Audible, Total Recall. Fabulous read. Really, really good. You get it for free if you download it through our link below. Thanks very much, Mark. We'll leave it there for today.